This is your 1 week warning.
Thanks, Crystal. All right. Where's my bill? We will have Bible study this week. I was sick this week, so thank you, everybody, for being flexible. Answering tough questions. Today's tough questions. How do you change? How's that for a tough one? How do you really change? Now, before I go any further, I want to get this set. The reason you're at this church specifically is because you absolutely believe that as you change, you will affect positive change in your world. Is that true? So a lot of churches, if you want to go for Christian theater, pretty much any church is going to be better than this one. If you want to just be entertained. But if you honestly believe, as I look more like Jesus, the power of Jesus gets released into the lives of the people around me. And of course that ties in with the third one, or the second one, praying in miracles. The more we agree with Jesus, the more his life flows out of us, the less our junk does. Okay. Now I really want to ask this, and I need serious showing of hands if this is true. Would everybody here probably say, yes, in my life, I have made some good, healthy decisions that have brought about good growth? Can you raise your hand? If you would say, yes, that's true, doesn't mean everything. Just something in your life you've chosen better and done better. Raise your hand. Okay, so pretty much everybody. How many of you would also say, but there's a couple things in my life that still need to go, I still need to do better in? Raise your hand. Okay, that's what today is for. And yet again, I pick one of the worst weeks to have the most powerful message. You know, I always do it either the week after Easter or Bloomsday, but hold on tight. There's never a bad week. There's never a bad week, but who the heck are we kidding? So, we're back to surviving and thriving. This is part 9, and the second part is about Saul and David with the armor before fighting Goliath, because there's something in this analogy that completely arrested my brain this week. We're going to get there in a minute. So here's the underlying assumptions. Fighting for your life is the opposite of enjoying your life. Amen? Amen. What you learn trying to survive will sabotage every attempt to thrive. Amen? Amen. By the way, can I tell you what emotional health really looks like? Please. Looking at your parents and realizing they were stuck in survival mode just like we've been stuck in survival mode. Amen. Yes. Right? Don't we all kind of hope at some point when our kids are on the couch talking about us that the therapist goes, you know what? They were stuck in survival mode just like you were. Yes. You don't have to say, man, Zachary and Alex aren't here, or they probably would. What does thriving look like? It's the love, peace, joy, and fruitfulness of Jesus. And that is his will for all of his disciples. John 14, 15, and 16. But thriving for Christians takes place in the midst of, not instead of, this fallen war zone planet. So the point is, you're going to thrive even while the planet still looks like the planet. We can't change that yet. Right? Right. Amen. Thank you. And so to go from surviving to thriving, we must fight like our inner David, not our inner Goliath. Our inner David is God's desire for us to thrive. It's God's desire for us to live by the Spirit. We don't fight with our inner Goliath's fight, which is about survival of the fittest, and it's about the flesh, as Paul would say. Okay? So today we're going to look at how do we do this with the help of our inner Saul. Again, I'm not accurate or eloquent, I'm just memorable. How did David do this? He recognized in the past his self-protection was still empowered by God. He killed the lion, he killed the bear. He realizes in his present that his path to current victory is paved with self-confrontation. We know self-sabotage, we know self-destruction, and we're getting away from that, correct? But it starts with self-confrontation. Not every thought in my head is me. Not everything I think has to happen. Discomfort isn't danger. Right? Self-confrontation. And he realized he could act in alignment with his highest values even when fighting your emotions. if this is the only thing you get, you will make advancement. So that ultimately in the future, he needed to rely on different skills about vulnerability, forgiveness, and faith. And it sounds like this. Look at the bottom one. The Lord who saved me from, he will save me from. Who would say with me, oh yeah, God's brought me through some stuff. Okay. He hasn't stopped. You just need to apply the same faith to your current stuff. Because to the hammer, everything is a nail. The way that we grow is we renew our mind, we take every thought captive, and today's message is very deeply on that. So we're just going to review. We talked about this 2 weeks ago. David said to Saul, let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Remember, this is Goliath. Your servant will go and fight him. And Saul, the king, said, you are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are but only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth. David said to Saul, when a lion or a bear came and carried off the sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by the hair, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them because, everybody say because. He has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of the Philistines. Are you seeing the self-confrontation in here? Are you seeing the fact that the things in the past that he has survived from, he realizes God was behind it and that God is going to help him go forward. This shouldn't be too tough. We've been on this for about 3 months now. Nod your head and I'll go forward. All right, good.
Okay.
But can I show you one thing? Do you notice he doesn't mention the sling or the stones yet? What did he do? He went toe to toe with a lion and a bear. Okay? This whole idea of sling and a stone, he doesn't bring up yet. Just hold on to that thought. We're going to get there in a minute. Then Saul dressed David in his own tunic. He put a coat of armor on him and a bronze helmet on his head. David fastened on his sword over the tunic and tried walking around because he was not used to them. I cannot go in these, he said to Saul, because I'm not used to them. And he took him off. Now I want you to notice two things. He put on a coat of armor and a bronze helmet. Who else had a coat of armor and a bronze helmet on? Goliath. Saul, doing his best with David, said, well, you need to wear what your enemy's wearing. Now, who the heck are we kidding? If David's mom was watching this, she'd go, yeah, you go, Saul. David, put on that armor, right? Ladies, right? Yes. But do you see the self-confrontation here? He tests it. He doesn't automatically reject it. He tests it, and what does he say? This doesn't work for me. Do you hear the self-confrontation? He's not saying to Saul, Saul, you faithless, circumcised Philistine. I don't know. He doesn't rebuke Saul. He thinks. Because remember, to go from survival mode to thriving almost always means you get out of the ditch. You get into the middle, okay? Right. Not everything in this planet is evil. Right. Not everything on this planet is perfect. Some things are fallen. Did you hear the difference there? And why, of course, do Goliath and Saul need so much armor? Because they've been hurt. This all makes perfect sense. Why wouldn't you have a shield and a massive sword and a massive coat of armor and have a little guy running around with another shield? Because you've been hurt. Okay. But the reason you're here in this church and not a church that's easier is because I want us to go from just survival mode to thriving. Amen. And that requires different thinking. So, how do we get there? We take every thought captive. All right, everybody look this way. Because I'm gonna dig into this now. This is about taking every thought captive, even the thoughts that are so deep you don't know you're thinking. Anybody here make a bad choice and you go, what was I thinking?
Oh, yeah.
Or you just do something by rote, or you just react in a conflict in a way you've always reacted, and then you go, hello? Right. That's taking every thought captive before it happens. 2 does statements we say a lot. The planet is fallen, and we all have inner conflict. Can we talk about the inner conflict for a second? I've noticed, thank you. I've noticed a new phrase pop up in American vernacular everywhere. It's when people said, yeah, they're talking about a bad performance of some type. We see it in reality shows. Amy and I see it in cooking competitions or sports. Somebody says, I didn't do well because I was in my head. Have you guys heard people say this before? Have you felt it before?
Yeah.
You just go, I'm just too much in my head. What does that mean? It means you're engaged with some kind of inner conflict, and you're not really happy with where it's taking you. Analysis paralysis. Have you had that one before?
Yeah.
Where you have to make a decision and you just can't, or you get it. Can I show you a little bit of what's going on in your brain when you're going through these inner conflicts? We're going to start with the first one. We're going to call this the inner Goliath. Your inner Goliath is committed to just surviving the bad things you've gone through before. You may not know this, but this part of your brain has recorded every horrible thing that's ever happened to you. And this part of your brain is constantly thinking about every horrible thing that has ever happened to you. And this part of your brain is committed to never letting you go through your worst thing again. It saves all the anxiety. And the moment, and what this part of your brain does, watch this, is it's always looking backwards. I don't want that to happen again. But you know what else it's doing? It's looking forward. And then it goes backwards. And then it goes forwards. And then it goes backwards. And then it goes forwards. And then it goes back. And you're just constantly doing this. And frequently, this inner Goliath says, that's discomfort, but I'm going to interpret it as danger. And it happens so quickly, you don't think about it, and that's why we will make the same kind of mistake
over and over.
Over and over. If you always think like you've always thought, you're going to always get what you've always got. Right? And that's your inner Goliath. And it's got you strapped down in armor, with swords, with shields, and then it's got a little guy running in front of you with another little shield. Okay? We get that one, don't we? Please say yes, I've talked about it for 5. Okay, good. We also have an inner David, which I would link to your spirit. The reason you are here this morning, or watching at home, is because you still have an inner David that is thinking about your present, but it's thinking about your future, and it's saying, I don't want to make the same mistakes. I want to do better. I want to empower everybody around me to do better. Right? Marcus today, when he got here, he just brought up something really good about what's going on with him. He goes, you know what? I got to create better boundaries for people who don't want me to get healthy. Everybody here would probably say, yeah, I've had to change playmates when I changed playgrounds before. Right?
Right.
That's the inner David, saying I can do things differently. There's a third one. We all have this inner Saul. And your inner Saul is just an obsessive judge. And it's constantly judging everything. Please understand, it isn't necessarily negative judging, always. It's more discerning. So as your inner Goliath and your inner David are kind of trying to figure out what's going on, you still got this inner Saul that's trying to figure out what's the best option. Okay?
Right.
Have you heard the phrase, no matter where you go, there you are? That's referring to your inner Saul. Your inner Saul is always constantly trying to figure out what's the best option between the two. So when people get stuck in their head, it's because they've got these three forces just constantly fighting in their brain. Now, here's the important part to realize. Your inner Saul thinks a lot like your inner Goliath. Isn't this a great analogy in the Bible? What did Saul try to dress David in?
Armor
The same stuff
is his enemy.
Goliath was wearing. You transform your mind by engaging that inner Saul to realize not everything that your inner Goliath is thinking is true. And then your inner Saul grabs a hold of a little bit from your inner David and starts having a healthier, more peaceful conversation. Did you notice the difference there? Your inner Saul is not going to beat your inner Goliath like this. Okay? If you're still fighting your brain like this, stupid, 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 stupid. Right? And by the way, do you know how I know all this? I lost a ton of money 2 weeks ago because I was gullible. The nights after it happened. And I went to bed. I do a pretty darn good job during the day because I keep my brain fairly busy, as you can probably imagine. But as soon as the lights go down and I'm just down there with my brain, guess what happens? Stupid, 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 stupid. Just start. There's my inner Goliath. How can the people in church trust you if you make choices that bad? What kind of an example are you to your sons? Right?
Right.
Don't look at me like you wouldn't know what this is like. So here's the point. I don't tense up to fight my inner Goliath. My inner Saul had to say, you know what? It's probably going to be a tough 2 hours. I'm probably not going to fall asleep easily. And yes, this part of my brain is going to go crazy. But I can't fight it with the same Goliath energy because that just creates more of me getting stuck in my brain. I have to realize, nope, I'm back on the middle of the horse. Part of me wants to get pulled this way. Part of me wants to get pulled this way. But I have to get back on the horse and say, if I make a mistake, I want to make a mistake because I'm trusting in my son or I'm doing something for my son. And then the inner Saul learns to say, it's God's money anyway. He put it in my wallet, he'll put it in my wallet again.
Right.
And my healthy self says, look at how Les Mis starts. The priest gave the thief the best silver candles and says, I've bought your soul for God. So when I pray for this guy, yeah, there's a little bit of smiting and there's wishing that God had thunderbolts in his hand and not nail prints. Okay? But what do I have to do? I have to step back. I know my thoughts. Yeah, this part of my brain is going to scream and yell and fight. Yeah, this part of my... And there's just a part of me that has to say, okay, fear, I hear you. And as even Andrea and I talked about 2 weeks ago, you get these thoughts and you just have to say, well, just going to float down the stream. The thought is a leaf on the stream.
Amen.
I may have in my brain this chess battle going on between David and Goliath. But folks, understand something. I'm the chessboard. I'm not the chess pieces. The way that you win the battle of your brain is you stop fighting. The way that you win the tug of war is you put down the rope. This is taking every thought captive. And then you choose to say, I know the thoughts and the plans the Lord has for me. And if part of my brain says stupid, 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 my brain doesn't scream. My brain just says, well, and I'm made in the image of God. I have the mind of Christ. But it's not this. It's, okay, all right. It's who's got the crazy cousin who just believes anything anybody tells him? Crazy cousin sometimes gotta talk himself. You just gotta let him. Okay. I'm not gonna. Does this make sense?
Yes.
And what did David do when he's in Saul's armor? He's self-confronted. Nope, this isn't how I'm going to do it. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
And then the other part is you need to turn your obsessive judge into an encouraging observer. I bet you everybody here, just quickly, could tell me the names of people who verbally tore you down and tore you to shreds throughout your life. This quickly. Right? Health happens when you stop echoing the people who tore you down.
Amen.
Again, you don't fight it. You just recognize. Yeah, I've heard that before. Hasn't stopped me from having a good life. Hasn't stopped me from being productive. Hasn't stopped me from making some very good choices in my life. And you just let that stupid go to, but I have the mind of Christ. I've survived and I've thrived, even in the presence of stupid. Did you see what I did there? Mm-hmm. I took their momentum, I turned it around. What's the Israeli form of martial arts that takes the energy of the other person? Yeah, Krav Maga.
Judo.
That kind of idea. You take the negative and you just let it. Okay, but what else is true? I have the mind of Christ. I have the words of Jesus living inside of me. Doesn't mean I always agree with them, but I know they're there. And I'm going to call to, I have the peace, I have the joy. And there's part of you that needs to turn your obsessive judge into an encouraging observer. Can I blow your mind for a second? What if Jesus is looking at everybody here and saying, you're doing amazing. I know what you survived. I know the trauma you survived. I know the self-hatred you inherited. I know the confusion you wrestle with. I know that you're getting your butt kicked because you just made some bad choices. But I think you're doing incredible. Folks, I want to tell you something. Your whole life changes when you start listening for that voice. Remember how Amy said about a month ago she realized that's not what the voice of God sounded like? That's not what the voice of Jesus sounded like? Friends, this is what health sounds like. You're not running from the negative, but you're just saying it doesn't have the same power it used to have. What if Jesus is looking at you and going, you are my poster child. I know what you've been through. I know what your mom and dad were like. I know what your lack of a dad was like. I know what your parents, I know what grandma and grandpa were like. This is how you walk into the kind of peace that when you are confronted with a real life giant, you're able to get closer to Jesus, and who are we kidding? Make better choices.
Amen. Amen.
And if you remember from last week, in a conversation of the problem of evil, God is fiercely, totally committed to the concept of sowing and reaping. And not just from the negative side. He wants you to get it from the positive side. He wants you to get, no, don't you get how much life you can have, how much joy you can have, how much peace you can have. And so how do we get there? Number one, we reframe our shame. Do you guys remember this one? I hope so. Well, I've been saying it for 12 years. You reframe your shame. Remember, your brain is pictures. The devil worked too hard to get you in traumatic situations to let you forget. But you can put a different frame around it.
Amen. That's right.
God sustained me even when I felt he failed me. Okay? The devil will not let you forget what happened to you. Sorry. But when you look at the picture, you can make sure you see the frame.
That's right.
When that happened to me, enemy meant me for go and get addicted to anybody and anything. When that happened to me, the devil wanted me to be so angry I was going to destroy anybody who got close to me. But instead, even through all the turmoil, while part of me felt God failed, the rest of me knows he at least sustained me to make sure I was at Living Hope on May 5th on a rainy Sunday to hear the sustaining hand of God can get you anywhere.
Amen.
If you learn to agree with it.
That's right.
Okay? How many people really quickly, when I talk about those moments, can say, oh yeah, I got a picture or two that needs a new frame? Okay? And then you have to learn to retell your story. Okay? Because we all have that inner monologue going. Here's why. Let me go back a second. Go back to your inner monologue. I bet you everybody here, if I sat down, within 5 minutes, you could probably give me all of your list of excuses as to why you're not where you think you need to be. Okay? That's the story inner Goliath is trying to tell your inner David. Well, I'll even go from my story. Believe me, I'm 55 years old. I know. I look 54, don't I? There probably isn't a day, seriously, there probably isn't a day that goes by when I don't reflect on the fact. My parents divorced when I was born. And in 1968, I grew up with a single divorcee, was the word that used to get used. And when all the other kids got to do activities at Father's kind of days, I didn't. And so when I say things like, it marked me, but it didn't define me, guess what I'm thinking about? I have to retell my story. I have to retell my story. And I've got all of these little things in my past that my inner Goliath is trying to say, why this is why you shouldn't risk. This is why you shouldn't try. This is why you shouldn't care. Because if you care, you'll get hurt. Or in the words of Homer Simpson, if it doesn't come easy, quit. Let's go watch TV. I mean, really? Okay? But it's the inner story my inner Goliath is still trying to say is the story of my life. This person failed me. This person failed me. This person betrayed me. This person left me. And it's trying to justify every bad decision I ever made. And it's trying to justify why I don't grow. And it's justifying why I don't change. All right, ready? Ready? This one's really good. Everybody think of a trait in your life you don't want to continue into next year. Does everybody have one? Okay. If by Bloomsday next year, that trait is not in your life, who in your world would be wrong? Would be wrong. So let's just, I'll use mine. Okay, I don't want to use sarcasm as a defense mechanism. That's my boss of 21 years, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to use sarcasm as a defense mechanism. Not that any of you would ever do that, right? Oh, like any of you would be sarcastic. If I stop being sarcastic, I know I have whole swatches of people who would be shocked that I stopped using sarcasm as a defense mechanism. Okay, are you tracking with me? Do we all have a person or two in your past or in your current who would be shocked if you changed trait A or trait B? Yes? Yes? Head nods. I'm going to blow you away. Ready? So would your inner Goliath. Your inner Goliath is more committed to that trait because your inner Goliath doesn't want to be wrong. And your inner Goliath doesn't want to think, I don't know him. I don't know her. That's why we keep making the same mistakes over and over. Because there's still a part of us that's committed to being who we were.
Amen.
Friends, this is taking every thought captive. If maybe you've got a part of your brain that says you always pick the wrong men. If you have a part of your brain that says, women aren't trustworthy. And so I can't really trust women well. The reason you are holding these things, the reason you are making the same mistake over and over and over is your inner Goliath doesn't want to be wrong. And whenever you get into discomfort, inner Goliath says, danger. And so you just do what you've always done. You'll always get what you've always got. You gotta retell your story to yourself. So when the old story pops up in your brain, again, you don't do this, do you? You go, oh, no. Yes, that hurt me. It didn't define me. The pain of that breakup brought me to this better relationship. The trauma of my household home led me to lean into Jesus more. Just this morning, I recounted to Amy a story of a conflict I had with my dad that was crushing as a senior in high school. And what did it do? It took me to church on Sunday night after going to a Seahawk game. And how many of you know teenage boys don't usually want to go to the church after a football game? But it led me closer to Jesus. So that's how I retell the story.
Amen.
All right, so everybody look at your neighbor. You got a little more brain space?
Yeah.
Okay. How many people remember this? The thoughts of addiction. Now, more, and easy. That's what addictive thinking sounds like. I have to have peace now. So you'll turn to whatever will give you happiness now. I don't have enough patience, so I need more to self-medicate. Life is too tough. I need something that'll make it easier. It's also survival thinking. Here's thriving thinking. Instead of now, you're thinking invest.
Okay.
What can I do with my time? Where can I sow so that I can reap something different? I'm not just going to demand I have everything I need right now, because that's just not the planet. Sorry. I'm not going to live thinking I need more. I'm going to come back to thinking Jesus and me are enough. I can accept that there are some things in my life I'm not going to have enough of, because that's just life. But I have Jesus, and Jesus and me are a majority. Jesus and me got me through. Jesus and me can get me through that.
Amen.
And instead of things being easy, thriving thinking is, but it'll make me stronger. Some things in life you will pray for, and they will happen quickly, and that will improve your faith. Some things you will pray for in life, and it will take a long time, and that will improve your faith and your character.
Amen.
Is that helpful?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah, I completely skipped that thing. But I'll just leave you with this thought. So I'm not going to do this today, but if you remember this from 2 weeks ago, this terrible sentence, and he took his staff in his hand and chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the brook, put them in the shepherd's bag which he had, that is in his shepherd's pouch, and his sling was in his hand, and he approached the Philistines. See how many times the word he, his is in there? Again, this is what an authentic translation sounds like. Very, very stilted, not great English, but accurate. Because there's something there the author wants you to see. David had to decide for himself. Because God's greatest designs in your life come from your most authentic self. And we'll probably talk about that next week. Unless I get bored with this and find something else. I may have ADHD, but it's HD ADHD. Finally get my attention. It's very focused. This is Andrew, ladies. Is that another one of those thoughts I should have just let go down the stream? Thank you. I hope somebody here takes that as the best news. You're not a mistake.
Amen.
You're not a screw-up. Who you are and how you process things might be fallen. It can be improved. But who Jesus made you to be, you are the only one. You are the only one. When he made you, he threw away the mold and probably beat up the mold maker. All right, well, we'll probably talk about that next week. Let's stand up and pray. Jesus, I bless everybody watching from home. I pray, Lord, in your name, that you break through in their lives in every area imaginable in your name, Lord.